Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Liebherr World Table Tennis Championships 2017, coming to you live from Dusseldorf, Germany. I'm your commentator, Adam Bobrow, and with me commentating is 12-time Scottish national champion, Gavin Rumgay. How's it going, Gavin?
How are we doing, Adam? Yes, feeling superb, and this is where it really starts to get interesting. Men's last 16 time.
And the man coming in right here has been at the top of the game for Portugal for several years. European champions not too long ago. He was number 7 in the world relatively recently, and he's got one of the most consistent games over and behind the table in Europe. Running in through the lightsabers of the light crew, who came in from just, I think, a few hundred kilometers away, going all over Germany. Apparently they have some really cool shows they do with their lightsabers, but this is just the basics for them. And as far as the basics, someone who makes world-class players look quite basic, as he did just recently in Korea, dominating the tournament. Timo Boll is back. Right here in Dusseldorf, the living legend is in great form. Had a chance to see his interviews on the official ITTF channel, and he's looking so sharp out here. Not just haircut and facial hair, but his game all around, even with Ma Long and doubles. Gavin Rumgay here had a chance to play him on a TV table. Gavin, tell us a little bit about how Timo's playing.
Yeah, Timo Boll, a true gent, an awesome player, legend of German table tennis. Been top 10 in the world for so many years and has reached number 1 at his very best.
3 times in the world, he was 3 times in his life, his career, he's been number 1 in the world. He is the last non-Chinese player to be number 1 in the world, and he's done it 3 times since. It's so cool to watch them in front of this roaring, sold-out crowd, being so calm and cool. There's Mu Chunlei, Chinese umpire, Mu Chunlei, I should say, and assistant umpire, a friend you might have seen on the world tour, including Korea, whose name will be up here in just a minute, as the light crew. Oh, well, so we've got legends in the corners, especially on the German side. Jörg Roskopf, who just literally won the Legends Tour, still in great form, and has played 2 Olympic Games where he's received medals. So he's a 2-time Olympic medal winner. And then we've got Coach Kong Guoping, who's been working with Marcos Freitas for some time. Timo Boll's had a very fascinating and illustrative career. Again, he's been known to be one of the only players in our lifetime, at least many people's lifetimes, who could beat the Chinese. He has a better record against the Chinese than probably almost any non-Chinese player, if not any non-Chinese player, still playing the game. That being said, between injuries, surgeries, rehab, and just dealing with, nature as age happens, has been up and down a little bit in the last year and a half, from Simone Gauzy to a few other players taking their toll on Timo Boll. He came out, and I was just mentioning before, Gao Ning, who's been the strongest player for the men in Singapore for some time, played a match in Korea against Timo Boll, where Timo Boll overslept his alarm. Nobody could get a hold of him. He wakes up, I think it was afternoon, and shows up for his match, pretty much skips the practice hall experience. His eyes, there's no question he had just woken up. And he beats Gao Ning. I think it was an average of about 3 points a game. The first was, I forgot, but the last 3 he beat him 11-2, 11-2, and 11-2. At 36 years old, he's currently world ranked number 8. We'll tell you a little bit about how he got here as you have a chance to see the players and their coaches. So Timo Boll over Scotland's Gavin Rumgay, who's sitting next to me. That was a 4-0 victory. But in one of those games, Gavin got 7 points. 7. After that, it was Jakub Diaz from Poland, a 4-0 victory. Dropped 1 game to the 2013 junior world champion from Korea, Jong Woo-jin, who beat Jang Ji-ke twice in the 2015 Asian Championships. So Jong Woo-jin is definitely not an easy walk in the park. But for Timo Boll, 4-1 victory again. And now here he is to play Marcos Freitas, who started off in the first round beating Papageorgiou from Greece 4-1. After that, it was Nima Alamian, one of the Alamian brothers who have been leading Iran for some time. Outstanding to watch those two Iranian brothers. 4-0 for Freitas, and after that, The most exciting match I've seen yet was Marcos Freitas versus Tristan Flor yesterday, where Marcos Freitas had match point 10-9 in Game 7 and served it into the net, only to come back and win. And this was after being up 3-0. He lost 3 games in a row. So mental toughness, experience, talked about the backhand. These two are both very steady in their games and very heavy spin players as well. Great with variation, placement, and spin. But Timo Boll's timing is just a little bit earlier. He's a little bit faster, and I think that might be trouble for Freitas.
That might be interesting, and I'm sure that the viewers tuning in, wherever you're tuning in from, will be interested to know, and we'll try and cover over the duration of this match why Timo's been so successful over the years at giving, he's able to beat some of the Chinese players. Why he's able to do that, we'll try and explain that through the duration of this match as well.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll see a lot of perfect demonstrations of his timing, his variation, change of pace and spin. This is a best of 7 match, and it should be a thriller. Freitas to serve. Clever idea, but a high-pressure shot from in near the body. Timo's anticipation, I had a chance to play him in the past, and he's always in the right place at the right time. It's very difficult to fool Timo. There's spinny opening backhand right there. These could be 2 of the best, most successful backhands in Europe over the years, at least recently. I guess if you compare Timo Boll's backhands from the past decade.
And Timo Boll as well. A lot of players, you think, right, okay, where is their weakness? Right, the weakness is probably into the middle, if you're able to shape the ball there, or to someone's wide forehand. Actually, Timo Boll, that is 2 of his strongest areas of his game.
Heavy topspin again from Freitas. Not the first shot we've seen blocked out. When I think back to all the spectacular highlights in the amazing career of Timo Boll, we've seen a lot of racket switching to the right hand. And I think that's just because he can chase so wide to the forehand side that's his only recovery. And we also talked about service toss and the variations on service toss, how Marcos Freitas' serve is very effective, his reverse pendulum. A lot of players have difficulty reading it. Not especially flashy, but subtle. And it earns him the 3rd ball, and ultimately that's what counts. A lot of beginners in table tennis like to serve to try to ace their friends or serve something that won't be returned. But at this level, it's so rare. It's more about serving something that handcuffs your opponent into giving you the 3rd ball you want. And look at the Timo Boll fan club here. He talked about playing in front of the home crowd, so he doesn't want to disappoint anybody. He's honored to be here. Edge of the racket after a long counter-looping rally. 2 big shots off the table from Freitas. Super Bowl. It's the Super Bowl. It's a Super Bowl who hits a Super Ball, and in this rally he hit many Super Balls. After 2 of these backhands came back, it put a lot of pressure on Timo, but he stayed focused, kept on top of the ball. If he softens up for a moment, Freitas is going to be right there to win the point. And this time the tables have turned. Very similar point to the point before. Freitas getting backed off the table.
And you were mentioning last night about Freitas' backhand improving over the last few seasons. You can see that's very evident already early on in this match. Not scared to take his backhand close to the table or further away.
Yeah, this is pretty unique. We don't see a lot of players who are so confident from off the table with their backhand. Well placed into the middle. A little bit of a late turn from Freitas cost him the point.
And over my match against Timo, it wasn't so much the quantity of spin, it was the placement of serves, it was the placement of receives, that accuracy that you need at this sort of level.
Smart combination, short to the wide forehand, deep to the backhand corner. Again, the delivery of that serve from Freitas is very subtle and tough to anticipate. Until the point of contact, you're not quite sure where it's going to go. Beautiful receive from over the table. The Chiquita, the banana, the elephant. It is the flip that has caused the world trouble. Been implemented in the Chinese system, and all top players seem to know how to do it and use it effectively in the receive game. Solid opening this time at the backhand from Timo.
You noticed there as well, he wasn't rushing that. It was a little bit of a high receive. He could have jumped in a little bit earlier, but then he might have top-edged that ball. So sometimes you take it with early timing, sometimes you actually wait for your opponent to move slightly and then go from there.
Second towel break of the game. And don't know if this is his number's coming off. I thought he seems healthy enough. Is this a medical timeout? Roscoff, not only a coach, but on fashion patrol here as well. All clipped up and ready to go. You know, there are a few players that are respected all over the planet by pretty much anyone who's ever seen table tennis before, and Timo Boll has to be one of the most loved players in the world. And it's been that way for some time. I mean, if you watch Lou Goliong in interviews years ago, he would always list Timo Boll as one of the 4 best players on the planet.
It's one of the first times he's went more for the quantity of spin, really hacking underneath that serve. When you go for the heavy reverse chop serve, you're catching that right on the very front of the racket.
And again, tempting Timo Boll with these half-long serves on different parts of the table. You know, I was reminded of that serve that Tristan Flor did wide to the forehand of Freitas late, I think around 8-9 or something like that in Game 7. Now think about when are one of these players going to use a long serve. So Game 1 heavily on the side of Marcos Freitas. That's 5 game points to take the first. Opening backhand and a finishing forehand. Marcos Freitas in combination just destroying Timo Boll in Game 1. I have a funny feeling this match is going to get much thicker as it goes on. We'll be back for Game number 2 right after this. We come back for Game 2. Timo Boll wiping off the sweat, wiping off the table to make sure that the bounce is clean. Gavin, did you have a chance to see the statistics there?
Yeah, very interesting with Freitas' serve, winning 3 in every 4 service deliveries, and that's the level that he'll need to maintain if he wants to get 4 out of these 7 sets.
That's right, it is a best of 7 match here. So we've seen even a match where a player lost 11-1 in the first game and came back to win the next 2. So 11-5 is far from a predictable, I'd say, situation for the games to come. And finally an uncomfortable place for Marcos Freitas to block. Timo tested with the forehands from the backhand corner and even opening a backhand in there. You know, we talk about his spin variation, that while he can play the ball quite quickly off the bounce, we haven't seen a lot of those wide angles. Also, he is playing a left-handed player. And this is something I think a lot of people don't always think through, but left-handed players often don't like playing other left-handed players because it is rare for them. It's not like they're playing themselves all the time. They're used to playing right-handed players. Not to say that that gives an advantage to one over the other. It really depends on their playing styles and their preferences. The Freitas over the table right now hasn't allowed Timo Boll to really get in. And there was the long serve, but well handled with the redirection down the line. Quite a different result than the start of Game 1.
Something happened there, though.
Wondering why Freitas stood up straight. Yeah, it was a bit odd. Oh, they're replaying the point. I really wonder what it could be. I don't know if there was a let called late. This is the second time in this tournament that I've had some questions that have gone unanswered. Been a bit mystified, curious what happened out there on the table. Ooh, what a last resort shot there, crossing the body. Try and read the spin on that ball.
So intelligent to keep the racket in front of his body there, though. Look at that, the way he's able to contort his body, keep the racket in front.
Very awkward side spin, top spin shot from the chest. And by the sound, you didn't even have to see the point to know that the point went to Freitas off the net on that one. Now this concerns me a little bit. This isn't the first time we've seen Timo a bit frozen in the backhand court. Marcos Freitas has been very deceptive with his placement out to the wide forehand.
And he also has to be careful as well, Timo, not to put too much spin on the serves. If he does that, Freitas can use that spin against him. So a few of the dribbly or float no spin serves might actually work to ball's advantage.
And the step around there is the speed, taking a little bit earlier off the bounce. But a very committed shot from Timo. You could feel by the way he went for it. He was going in to finish the point. 83, we broke 80. This is the fastest shot we've seen. Gavin and I with our hands in the air right now. 78 was the previous record in this tournament. So it's 36-year-old Timo Boll who shows us that it goes past 80 on the meter. Freitas comes right back in. Probably not aware of the stat that that was 83 kilometers per hour. This is one advantage. I would encourage anyone to see this live, but don't feel too bad because you've got the statistics on the screen at home. Much more assertive this time around. I feel like game two, Timo's really working to get the forehand attack in. He's not getting into the mid-distance. He's putting a bit more pressure on to stay near the table, take it early. And again, the first two shots in the rally, the most important to get yourself in position.
And if Timo was to progress from this match, that's what he would need to do against the top Chinese. Look to turn, get his forehand in.
Oh man, that's a lot of pressure. That one really high ball that Timo just slammed out wide to Marcos Freitas' forehand, comes back deep on the table but still didn't finish the point. The start of game one, we saw this was the ball. All that top spin kicking right at the baseline. Timo knows he has to get it before it forces him even farther back from the table.
Clever. Dead block. Wasn't much on that for Freitas to use. The ball didn't really arrive to him, so then he rushed it still a little bit too far in front of his body.
It's funny you bring that up. There's so many elements in table tennis that a lot of people, even if they play the sport, don't consider as a possibility. These spin variations and subtle differences. It's a good setup for Timo to take the cross-court point. And as you mentioned on the serve, you know, this is something for players out there that are maybe just getting started or have been playing tournaments for some years but aren't professionals yet. And there's the horn, the sound you hear. Wow, I've heard that sound for years and years and I've never seen where it came from. That's the man with the yellow hat and the horn on the string. I was going to say that taking spin off the serve, a lot of us try to overpower and hit a serve that's so spinny that it's going to jump off the racket, they can't control it. But sometimes lightening up the spin is much more effective. Beautiful shot from Timo Boll. We just got word in that the man on the horn is named Heinz. Much like the catch-up, except probably younger than 57. Tough to tell from the video. I guess that's the varieties. Look at these counter loops. Timo so close to the table, you can see just their distance and the difference of the distances. Marcos Freitas being forced back for a few of those. His balance, he wasn't able to stay forward and come back in. There's that sound again from the crowd where you know there was fortune for the opponent. By the way, if you have any questions, you can send them to @ITTFWorld on all the social media. Hashtag #AskTheCommentator. Love to address your queries. Beautiful rally, and again, Timo Boll on top of the table and on top of the bounce.
And in halls like this that are a little bit slower, if you're a little bit earlier than your opponent, sometimes that's enough to win points like that.
Just say bigger hall, slower ball. From the start of that point, I thought it wasn't looking good for Timo. He didn't want to get too passive in the blocking game from the backhand corner. But out of nowhere, he turns it on with the backhand counter. And after losing game 1, 11-5, his 4 game points over Marcos Freitas. Oh, Timo Boll, beautiful shot. A lot of pressure, was falling away when he hit that too. Watch the positioning, the placement of Timo Boll's opening forehand here. Bit into the backhand corner, but not deep enough. Freitas still able to lean out of the way and play it down the line for the winner. Well-placed serve, gets away at the back of the table. Marcos Freitas off the top of the racket. It's 11-7. Timo Boll ties it up, so we're dead even. Stick around, game 3. We'll see who steps into the lead right after this.
错过不再。
As we come back for game number 3, you could see that the speeds of Timo Boll's shots were much higher than Marcos Freitas's, and here's the placement on the table for you. Chance to see where they're hitting the ball at their opponent. Timo Boll into the backhand corner more. Trying to jam up Freitas, keep him on the defense, get his forehand into play. Now we saw that little 3 on the top of the racket. Timo Boll using a Timo Boll blade. Not all players are able to do this. I think Timo Boll probably has more rackets named after him than any player on the World Tour. But you were talking about the differences. I was wondering if that was maybe his 3rd blade, and you brought up the difference in speed, Gavin?
So many of these players that they'll come to a tournament like this unsure of, how quick the haul is going to be. So they'll probably come with 4 or 5 rackets. And that's obviously what the first 2 or 3 days in the practice hall is about, testing the rackets, get used to the conditions, the humidity, and then you obviously choose the racket accordingly.
Very familiar points indeed. Freitas back off the table, but a very wide ball to the backhand. We talked about Fan Jiandong's sweet spot and how it's quite a sweet area, really. It's just so big. Freitas tested on the reach there for that last shot. Now, as far as the rackets, having all those spares, also every once in a while a racket doesn't pass a test or someone clips the back edge of the table.
Well, that forehand was traveling.
Let's see. 83, the number to beat. We've got 82%. We've got 83 kilometers per hour. Some high numbers up there. The let was called. And there's a warning on the service for Timo Boll. He's trying to look down at the court. It's a packed stadium here. We have a little bit of ways to go to see the umpire, so I didn't catch the hand signals. Timo, I talk to the umpires a lot, from the hotels to the buses and the dinners. They're great people to talk to. One, they love table tennis. Two, they know the rules quite well, of course. But all of them say that Timo has the cleanest serve. I think he's one of two names that I hear for the cleanest serve in the game.
You're spot on with that comment, because in my first round match with Timo, I could see every one of those serves.
And that's ultimately the standard. I mean, assuming they're not spinning the ball or tossing it from their fingertips or throwing it back too much. There was Hines again on the horn. Hines the hornman. Beautiful receive. Timo Boll knows the space. His spatial awareness is like, if he were alive in the times of cavemen, I don't think any animal would have a chance of taking his life. He could be like a centimeter behind the table and got a full-on forehand loop. It's like the Revenant in table tennis. Bear attack, no problem. Call Timo. 6-0 for Timo Boll. I think this is a good time for Hines to be celebrating. But it's up to Timo Boll to stay focused. I mean, it still is. We've seen bigger comebacks than from down 0-6. And it starts with one. Marcos Freitas over the table. Beautiful forehand flip.
We've seen in game one when Boll was serving short to Freitas' backhand, he wasn't winning too many points there, and he started to then in game two shift the service across.
Timo Boll had his head down for that second ball. It was coming in so fast. Reminded me, how Ma Lin would pull the racket behind his head? It looked almost like that for a moment. It's really cool watching Timo Boll play live right now when you think about all the videos on YouTube and from playing Waldner back in the day and years against Vladi and watching videos of him when he was a little kid playing. And here he is at 36. Looking to beat former European champion, former world number 7, and a tough opponent indeed.
Freitas doing well to hang in this set of how well Boll is played.
Just wide. We haven't seen too many points with Boll fishing. Of course, Freitas, we recall, so far just reviewing in our head, probably about half of the points it seems like Freitas is backed way off the table.
It was actually the arc that beat Boll there as well. He opted to loop that ball down there, did Marcos.
Extra spin on that backhand. That serve appeared to be a very short topspin serve. That's so difficult to do. It's one of those things that almost sounds like a physical impossibility. Give him a topspin underspin serve. Short topspin serve to the forehand, and he pulls it out. 3-point lead for Boll with his second serve. Another perfectly half-long serve, a little bit on the short side to the forehand. Gets Timo Boll the opening loop.
And he spins up right to the back line there. It's not like what you sometimes see in your club back home. The player gets a third ball and tries to rocket it away for a winner. There's patience there. Playing with poise, precision. It's very, very good.
Right, and you talked about the placement of Timo Boll's shots when you were playing him, that he just wouldn't let you get anything. He would always put the ball in a place that was so uncomfortable. Now, Timo Boll's a gentleman, but it's true. He just doesn't allow you to play your game. He can shut it down. He's got so much touch and skill and vision on the table. The step around power shot from Freitas, a little bit too much for Timo to play down the line to the short side.
And we all need to learn this tactic of when someone hits the ball hard and aggressively at you, to hold the table, hold the ground.
As opposed to backing up. Absolutely, it's very easy. It's a natural inclination to back off the table, give yourself more time. But just like practicing, like the Chinese do, taking the shot earlier off the bounce, when you practice something that's difficult, you get better at it. The more you do it, the better you get, and it really pays off. This is hard work that we're watching out here after years and years of just, you know, pounding the pavement. Big point for Boll. The shift in momentum after Freitas had 2 in a row could have been within 1 point.
And a shift in speed as well. The last few points that Boll had won, it was slow backhand topspins. There was a quick shift, fast topspin out wide.
Very nice change of pattern. I was just thinking after the last serve that Marcos Freitas is going to have to find a better response in the receive game, because those half long to the forehand serves, I feel like Timo's waiting for him to flip. If he flips it to the forehand, he'll counter loop for a rip. And if it's pushed, it's going to come off the table. He'll step around the corner, and if it's played to the backhand, he's comfortable to open and spin deep the opposite way. Oh, man! Look at that! If there's not a show-worthy point in this match, that one was just incredible. So many backhands again from Freitas, and finally the opening on the short forehand side.
You can hear that lovely tonking sound. Both players timing the ball beautifully.
And it was that last shot from Timo that had to come across the chest as he leaned his upper body out of the way. Both of these players quite experienced, but Marcos Freitas, the younger of the two, by a good handful of years and then some. Solid backhand placed right into the body, and look at this. We've got 9 points each. We talk about turning points. It's still relatively early in the match, but Marcos Freitas, world rank number 16, is only 29 years old, and he's come all the way back from down 4-8, winning 5 out of the last 6 points to be here tied with Timo. Third towel break of the game. Timo has a chance to think about his serves as the CEO of USATT and thousands of other table tennis fans cheer him on.
There's been many reverse serves up till now. Will he continue that way?
And you know what? This is a sign of an expert. I was thinking to myself, he's going to go half long to the forehand, half long to the forehand, handcuff him, and there it is, deep to the opposite side of the table. Fools us all. Surprise serve. Game point with a second serve right here to take it for Timo Boll.
And if your hands are just a touch sweaty, it's so difficult there to go with the reverse fast long serve.
Right, the grip really has to be loosened up. You're not holding on with too much grip. Oh, big counter for Freitas. The freight train chewing and chewing. That opening attack from Timo was strong, but it was well anticipated. Freitas saw it coming cross court, predicted it, got there, and with a short stroke countered it back. Again, you don't need as much power on the ball when there's power coming in. It's like a fast pitch in baseball is much easier to take for distance. Freitas now with the serve, deuce. Ooh, drifts just a little bit too long, and the inspector, Timo Boll, sees it coming off the table, sitting up a little bit too high, rips it. Down at the player's height, you can see where that ball was. Timo to keep his balance and move into the table. So effective here. And you could see the core strength as well, that Timo really had to work to make that shot. Game point once again for Timo Boll. That was the one a little bit shorter on the forehand side of the table, but just overdoing it, going deep to the backhand.
You could just see there when Boll made contact with that third ball, the backhand just moved his feet a little bit on impact, which then meant that it dragged the ball off.
Just caught for a moment what the interaction was. Whatever it was, Freitas said, okay, as you wish. It's pretty typical. The players do tend to listen to the officials. Wow. This is some fascinating play. A lot like Tristan Flor yesterday. We got a net ball there for Timo Boll that was recovered with that chop and then going for the backhand rip. We see that a lot too, when someone recovers a ball and then they feel like, well, I've got to end the point now. Get a little bit anxious. Not to say that it was bad shot selection. I think Freitas could have made that shot. He just seemed a little bit disoriented. Third game point for Timo. The wrist pays off, turns early, takes it quick off the bounce. I feel like they're almost teaching each other a lesson here, you know? They're both comfortable in the counter-looping game, blocking, looping from both sides, a little bit behind the table. And it's Timo Boll who's been so successful with the early shots. Freitas doing just the same. And chronologically speaking, you could say that Freitas maybe learned it from Boll.
I think that's exactly what's been happening, and also with service placements as well. When someone starts to serve that little bit more intelligently, the other player's copying them.
It's funny, the human ego, the pride. I know sometimes someone will do a serve against me, and if they get the point off of it, I'm thinking, oh yeah, watch, I can do that too. Quite a common thing to see against club players, I guess. Popped up a little bit. I think that was a show of, wow, I'm happy this one did not end the way I thought it would. Freitas with an opportunity there. Timo Boll escapes the point.
And does that go down as an unforced error? It's one of those, I'm not so sure.
Considering the number of unforced errors we see in the statistics, I have to imagine that will be recorded as an unforced error, even though you nor myself would probably call that an unforced error. Down. What do you call that? An across-the-body loop chop?
A reverse sweep.
A reverse sweep. Timo Boll tested. My favorite shot I've ever seen Ma Long hit. Oh my goodness, I want that to come down. I think I've seen him do that once before.
It's like he was washing a window.
Misha Kazantsev. United States did that 3 times in the same match against the current U.S. national team coach. But if Timo Boll did it out here at the World Championships against Marcos Freitas to win the game, we'll see if he's got another chance. So it hasn't been a game point yet for Freitas. If I remember correctly, from 10-9, it's always been Timo Boll's game point. Windshield wiper. Beautiful shot down the line, Timo Boll. It takes a total of 28 points this game. And Timo Boll getting the crowd crazy. The kids can't contain themselves. It's a 2-1 lead for the German pride, and we'll be back for game 4 right after this. As the players come back to the table, each game averaging 11 minutes so far, we've got the wave going around the arena. There's a wave of enthusiasm happening here, and this is table tennis, a country that knows what is up. What time is it? It's TT time here in Germany, live in Dusseldorf. Even ITTF there through the tribune doing the wave. Grab your surfboard, folks. This is a big one. Sold out arena. What an exciting time to be at the World Championships. It just gets better and better every year. And of course, watching Timo Boll, a German legend, here in the hometown, who spent so much time for Dusseldorf. And they're giving it right back to him. Make sure you make the time to come see the legends while you can live on the World Tour. How much better can you hit a shot? The receive and the follow-up attack, and Boll was right there waiting. Gives it back wide to the forehand. That combination was deadly. Even that first attack from the backhand side to come back is enough to impress anybody in the crowd. It almost feels like the first point won the first 2 points. Just watching the body language of Freitas, it was almost like he hadn't emotionally recovered from the one before. We also have to remember how physically demanding it is when the ball is coming back into the body and you're making forehands leaning off to the side. With Timo Boll, outstanding form.
Really feeling the play at the moment, and when Boll is right off the bounce, racket high, racket out in front as well, that's when he really is seeing it.
Now, this is another one that might fall in on the unforced error statistic, despite the fact that Timo Boll loaded it with spin. So, I mean, it's easier said than done, right, to lift that ball, but to an outside eye, looked like Freitas could have made the shot. And now a backhand to the short side. He's just picking his place on the table now and going for it.
And you can see there as well, the way he's contacted that, that's right out of the tip of the racket. That's where the ball's going to travel the fastest. Right out there.
It's funny you mentioned that. A lot of people don't think about it, but on serve, if you contact it near the hand a little bit more, there's less rotation on it. But near the end of the racket, as you mentioned, that is where it's traveling the fastest. Much like standing on the outside of a merry-go-round rather than closest to the center. Or hitting a baseball near the end of the bat on the barrel. So Freitas with his first point here.
Important now for Freitas to settle down, find his way back into this set. Couple of good service deliveries.
So, you know, we were trying to deliver some head-to-head statistics here. And in when Portugal won in the European Games last year in Baku, Freitas beat Timo Boll for the winning match. Too wide. Boll apologizing, I think, for the net that set up the opportunity to force Marcos into fishing a little bit, but still, that follow-up shot was just amazing.
To find an angle from no angle. It was right in the very center of the table.
Yeah, right. There's clearly no obvious way to go on that shot, and he made it look like the table was about a foot wider than it actually is. Oh, that's a tough shot anyway, but a little break off the edge. We have to wonder if Timo would have reached it because it was bending away if that's a clean bounce. You know, interestingly enough, that win for Marcos Freitas was the same in 2014 at the European Championships in Lisbon. So two very big wins for Marcos Freitas. We were talking head-to-head what we would guess the percentages are between these two, but in recent years, Freitas has been quite a challenger. Well played, difficult ball, heavy topspin. Freitas coming in, recognizing that, and coming down on top of the ball.
We see there, as he makes contact there, he bends round the left-hand side of the ball. If he contacts the ball in the middle, that ball's going to shoot right off because of the quantity of spin put on it from Timo Boll.
You want that ball to come back on just to see what happens. But quick off the bounce, Freitas putting a lot of pressure wide to the forehand side and then softer to the middle of the table. Watch him come back in here right near the ground.
Timo's got to be careful not to enjoy this match too much. Stay close to the table.
And Marcos Freitas seems like he heard exactly what you said. But he knows at this level, you know, once you're back off, you want to find any opportunity. And I feel like Marcos Freitas is really pushing himself out of his comfort zone to come right back in. Against a lot of players in the world, many of the top Europeans, Freitas can win a match from behind the table. But against Timo Boll, we talked even before we started that it's going to be a lot of pressure early off the bounce and a competition to see who can get the attack in first and who can take it earlier off the bounce. So cool to think back to the very first time you saw professional play, sitting in an audience with the crowd doing the wave, cheering and screaming. Who knows, those girls could become future German national champions and even more. Persistence, backhand to backhand, very confident play from Freitas, staying in at the table again.
It's just been such a high level throughout. Start till right now. We're right at the important part of the match now.
We've got the timeout. It's going to be on the side of Timo Boll. So Roskopf doing a good job. You know, you used a phrase that I thought was quite wise. Very wise words of Gavin Rumgay. He needs to make sure not to enjoy this match too much. It's funny to put it that way, but I think that really captures the feeling, right? It's easy to enjoy table tennis. Obviously, Timo Boll loves it. He's playing incredibly well. And it's easy to enjoy playing in front of a stadium of your fans that thanks you for years and years of spectacular entertainment. And having a big lead sometimes gives you a little bit of room for comfort. We see it with Xu Xin. Fortunately for him, it doesn't usually seem to cost him. Against Fang Zhendong maybe from time to time. But Timo Boll, yeah, really does have to stay focused with all these attractive distractions here. Marcos Freitas is coming back, and he's coming back in a big way.
Sometimes as well, when Boll's enjoying it too much, there's too many extended rallies. If he's clinical at the start of a rally, we won't be getting to ball 11, 13, 15, and so on.
Right, it's still to your advantage to finish the point as quickly as possible. Sort of the reason that attackers tend to be at the top of the world rankings. Simply put, anyway. Still think it's cool that they showed Heinz the Hornman on TV so you could see what that horn looks like. Buy one and bring it to your own home country national championships or whatever world tour events you go to. That's a difficult shot. I mean, he takes the ball quite low. An impressive return or two early on, but maybe a spinnier shot a little bit slower to set himself up, get back into position. So far, the timeout has not helped. Freitas ties it up at 7 each. Is it 7-3? Pressure quick. This is what he needs to do. Take the risks, go for it off the bounce. It's what he's best at. There was the let's go sign. But the crowd behind him, people preparing their letters to cheer him on.
And that rally there was half a metre earlier than Timo's been for the last 5 or 6 points.
Seen this combination a few times. Freitas down the line as he turns. You know, we talked about serves. I think I remember one year, might have been 2014 at the European Championships, where Timo Boll looked a little bit frustrated, having trouble seeing the serve against Marcos Freitas. I was wondering, I think it was match point, right around there, but there was a clear look of frustration. It's definitely a difficult serve to receive. Maybe a floaty serve, light spin there, comes back a little bit long, and Timo Boll earns the opening.
That service is quite difficult to read because he's chopping down on the serve, but he's actually hitting the ball right on the back of the racket so that there's no spin actually generated.
With table tennis technology and the way the programming is going, I imagine one day we'll be able to see where he's contacted the ball. And that's some clear frustration. Gets the swing at the backhand. This is a shot that Timo Boll has ripped for a winner several times throughout the match. The plot thickens, though. It's now 2 serves on the side of Marcos Freitas. And he could take the game to tie it up. We can expect a reverse pendulum. We got the German physio team there, behind some of the volunteers in between, massage therapists. Perfect placement deep into the backhand. Freitas getting himself more centered, looking for the cross-court receive. You know, rock, paper, scissors, I feel like there is an element of where does my opponent think I'm about to play, and making such quick decisions. A little bit of a gamble, but the risk pays off, and Timo Boll with a game point.
Freitas was worried there because in the previous set, Boll had hit a very strong shot wide at the conclusion of the set. So he was already shifting over there.
We've got a timeout here as well. This is interesting. You know, you don't call a timeout when your player's winning a lot of points in a row coming back from 3-7. You know, if it ain't broken, don't fix it, right? Let him keep going. It seems to be working. But since then, he had a serve. The serve didn't go his way, didn't get him the point. And Coach Kong Guoping knows how important it is. And look at how much the Portuguese players are enjoying it. Montero in the back. Geraldo tweeting and Snapchatting. It's nice to see them enjoying the environment, though. The president of the National Association there in the corner was quite focused, watching in anticipation to see if Marcos Freitas can make some history here for Portugal. Again, Portugal, relatively small country, yet in table tennis, for some reason, I mean, it's almost like Sweden, right? Sweden competing with China for many decades, from what, the 70s through the year 2000, and Portugal is on the map. So let's see how the timeout pays off here. Freitas has a second serve. He gets to call the shot, or at least how the rally's going to start.
Freitas just needs to think about service to a good place and don't miss the third ball. That's it. He's in control of this rally. As long as he serves well and attacks the first ball to a good place, he's in the ascendancy.
Well, let's see. Nothing seems so obvious right now to me for an answer against Timo's receive. And there goes a well-placed flip. Timo Boll deep to the backhand corner. It's the serve we've seen time and time again with different variation of spin. But Timo Boll sees better than most by a lot. And it's 11-9, a 3-1 lead for the pride of Germany. We'll be back. Game 5 coming up right after this. So we come back for Game 5. Gavin and I having a little fun boys chat about favorite serves and what we love to bring. Go Timo. Check your M, son. Go Timo. We have Let's Go. We got a lot of fans here cheering We Will Rock You from Germany to Portugal. Big backhand to open. Keeps the crowd quiet for a bit. A little bit more traditional serve from Marcos Freitas there. It's tough after you've been punished 2 serves in a row at 9-9 with your reverse pendulum. But he went back to it, got into the rally.
There's great consistency from both players there. Playing 4 or 5 high-quality backhands in a row and not giving any ground away from the table, staying close.
So much topspin on that ball, just dips under the racket. A little shallower on the table too. But if you keep a ball that shallow on the table, you have to do exactly what Timo Boll did and keep it low to the net to leave a really awkward ball coming off the back of the table. confident play from Timo Boll. Soft opening and gets comfortable for the block. Opens up the points.
And he started to look more and more comfortable as the rounds have progressed as well. With the conditions, he's starting to spin the ball a little bit lower and getting it to sit down on the table there. And there it is again, that low little spin. He takes that spin a fraction of a second earlier than anyone else would, and that just means that the ball, as soon as it makes contact with the table, it grips, it skids, and it stays low.
You know, thinking back to last game, 7-3, looked like he was running away to a 3-1 lead and barely pulled it out. Oh, that's just too pretty. Falling back from the table to the short side, reaches out to the forehand and slaps it cross court for the winner. I mean, this is, you know, we talked about the fighter-pilot reactions. Look at this from player's height. Down the line, and Timo just reaches, comes around the outside of the ball to add a bit of side spin. I mean, if you could script what you want to do to the ball and then make it happen, it would be Timo Boll. You would be Timo Boll. That's basically what he's doing. This is where Marcos Freitas has been playing the balls on the table. Timo Boll hitting to the other side to his opponent. A bit middle and a bit into the backhand corner.
You notice there when both players touch short, they're not touching it too short that it's easy for someone to flick. They're trying to touch where the second bounce is right close to the back white line.
Right, it's exactly like serving. Half long, force the hesitation. If the opponent knows what they need to do, like you said, if it's too short, it's easy to flip, and it's also easy to keep short if you can't attack it. It doesn't really earn you a third ball, or a ball following that anyway to attack. Right idea from Freitas, but it goes long. Less forgiveness to the short side. The look on Timo Boll's face seems very focused right now. I wouldn't say he's having too much fun. I think game 3 definitely stopped the fun factor at this point. Deceptive serve. Heavy underspin on the contact. We also have to think Timo tried something that was a very difficult shot to leave it short on the backhand from that serve. Still thinking about that touch side on the receive before the attempt. It reminded me of when Timo Boll was playing Chen Wei-Shing and drops it off the side of the table so wide. Chen Wei-Shing, thank you, Heinz. Chen Wei-Shing starts clapping. That hat, though. I feel like Heinz is a bit of an icon in table tennis now. Very smart play, brings Timo in. Middle of the table, right at the back edge. And then keeps it deep and wide to the forehand. It's also a tough recovery. Subtle, not as much as a short serve to the forehand. A nice combination from Freitas.
Freitas is just creeping along here, and if he can find a little bit of inspiration at the end of this set, could be very, very different. 3 sets to 1, 7-5 to Boll. Thoroughly deserved so far.
Break off the top of the net. Maybe that's inspiration. We saw an apology either way, a 3-point lead, but he's had bigger, and they've quickly disappeared. It's interesting, Timo Boll backing up with each one of those steps. But it was a nice change. Taking the ball from down low added a lot of spin. Change of pace, tougher to deal with. Uncomfortable ball. Timo Boll looked a little bit caught. If it was a little bit wider to the backhand, ironically, I think he would have had a more clear decision for how to hit it. But there you can see a little bit of a stiff wrist, a little bit of hesitation in front of the body. Beautiful shot down the line. Freitas usually can get that back into play, though. I thought we'd see the rally continue, honestly.
He tried to get the ball back really, really low. Difficult one to control, that one.
Outstanding play. Still almost comes back, but again, it's an inside-out forehand. This time a bit of side spin to the short side of the table. And we have 4 match points for Timo Boll to move on to the quarterfinal, where he will face Ma Long if Ma Long goes through, yes? Which we all expect he will. And he does it! Timo Boll, to the delight of the home crowd, has taken revenge on Portugal's Marcos Freitas after 2 European huge matches. Crowd on their feet as the legend, the living legend, Timo Boll moves on, and he shows his appreciation to the fans. A humble gentleman and an ideal role model of a sportsman, Timo Boll will continue on here in Dusseldorf. What a match, Gavin.
This is what table tennis is all about. Timo in front of his home fans, absolutely fascinated at how well he played there. He's got used to the conditions, he's getting used to this Nitaku ball. The further he goes in this tournament, the more chance he's got to improve. He's sharp, he's taking the ball early, and big congratulations to Timo. There he is.
You know, I have to say, I feel like the culture of table tennis is changing, and changing for the better. The way this arena has been today, the way the fans are reacting, from Heinz the Hornman to the wave, and also the embrace. Timo Boll has been doing this for a while, but the way he shook the hand of Marcos Freitas' coach, Kong Guoping, was a very respectful sign of appreciation and love. Really just respect for the opponent. So it's always good eye contact, a good handshake, win or lose. And this is one of the many reasons, other than his outstanding play, that Timo Boll has been so popular around the world. We'll enjoy the celebrations with the smiling Timo Boll, and get ready. We're going to have one more big match coming up here today. Stick around. You're watching the 2017 Liebherr World Table Tennis Championships live from Dusseldorf.